Hey friends, it's Rana and I'm here today to review all the non-fiction books I read during non-fiction November. I originally had like 8 books on my TBR and I ended up reading 6.5 out of them. And the first book I finished during non-fiction November is Humans of New York Stories by Brandon Stanton. I wanted to start my non-fiction November with an easy read, that's why I picked this book. If you don't know, Humans of New York started in 2011 as a blog and a Facebook page run by the photographer Brandon Stanton, where he goes around New York, takes photos of people and share them with a quote or a conversation he had with them. Since then, the blog and Facebook page exploded in popularity and he traveled to many cities and countries around the world and kept capturing people's lives and stories for us. This is his second book he published and it was fun and quick to read. I finished it, I think, in 3 days. I kept reading a little parts here and there during my working hours in office when I didn't have anything else to do. I obviously enjoyed this book. I've been a big fan of Humans of New York since like 2014 and I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished is The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. This is a short collection of essays by James Baldwin talking about the civil rights movement and the social justice in the USA. I don't know how I feel about this book or what even to say about it. I give it 3 out of 5 stars, but I don't even think it is right for me to rate it as it doesn't concern me or I'm not the right person to talk about the subject matter as a non-Black, non-American woman. The only thing that I can talk about and participate in the discussion of is that this book cemented my idea that Nation of Islam is really messed up. Like, I first read about Nation of Islam like 8 years ago when I read the biography of Malcolm X, and it has really wrong beliefs in it and it contradicts the religion of Islam in many ways. Like, this book showed other sides too of how it is far away from the real religion of Islam. Like, their belief that God is black. Honey, in Islam, we don't even talk about how Allah looks like, his appearance. We don't picture him, draw him. It is one of the few religions that don't draw or picture their God because it is forbidden in Islam to do so, because no human being ever saw him and we will never see him until doomsday. And you have the audacity to come here and claim that a God, Allah, is black. You assign a human race to Allah. Also, there was this one paragraph that completely blew my mind. Nation of Islam doctrine, historical and divine proof that all white people are cursed and are devils and are about to be brought down. This has been revealed by Allah himself to his prophet, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The white man's rule will be ended forever in 10 or 15 years, and it must be conceded that all present signs would seem to bear witness to the accuracy of the prophet's statement. First of all, Elijah Muhammad is not our prophet. We only have one prophet, who is Prophet Muhammad. He is the only and last prophet in Islam. Second of all, this contradicts a big point in the basis of our religion, which is all human beings are equal. No race is better than the other and no ethnicity is better than the other. And there's even this one hadith from our prophet, our real prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, that says, and this is roughly translated from Arabic, "O people, certainly your God is one and your Father is one. An Arab has no virtue over a non-Arab, nor does a non-Arab have a virtue over an Arab. A red-skinned person is not more virtuous than a dark-skinned person, nor is a dark-skinned person more virtuous than a red-skinned person, except through taqwa." Taqwa is like faith and the fear of God. So in short, all people in Islam are equal, whether you like it or not, Mr. Elijah. Another crazy paragraph is, God is black. All black men belong to Islam. They have been chosen, and Islam shall rule the world. The dream, the sentiment is old. Only the color is new, and it is this dream, this sweet possibility that thousands of oppressed black men and women in this country now carry away with them after the Muslim minister has spoken, through the dark, noisome ghetto streets, into the hovels where so many have perished. The white God has not delivered them, perhaps the black God will. You don't have to be sane to consider this outrageous. Islam is a religion for all people from all races, ethnicities, and backgrounds, and God is definitely not black. That is complete blasphemy. I'm glad that James Baldwin didn't believe all these lies that Elijah told him and was spreading around Black people in America. Overall, a great book, but if you read it, please be aware that the Nation of Islam has nothing to do with the religion of Islam. Next, I finished Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. This is a self-help book, which is something I was trying to avoid reading because I find self-help books to be pretentious, but this one turned out to be actually helpful. Chris Voss is a former FBI hostage negotiator, and in this book of his, he offers us a new, effective, field-tested approach to negotiation, which allegedly could work in any situation. I read this book as an ebook and I annotated the hell out of it. I came out with so many tips and techniques. I tried some of them and they actually worked, and I have yet to try the rest. Surprisingly, an actually helpful self-help book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next we have 84 Charing Crossroad. This one is another short book I read in November. It is a collection of letters and correspondences spanning over 20 years between Helen Humph, who is a freelance writer located in New York City, and a used book dealer bookshop in London. They never met throughout these years, and they were separated geographically and culturally, but they were able to create a wholesome friendship based on their love for books. It is a sweet little book that you can fly through in a day or less. I give it a 3 out of 5 stars. There's nothing wrong with it. I didn't dislike anything in it. It was just a little bit repetitive. It is basically her ordering books, them sending her the books, then her paying back the price of the books, and that kept repeating. Sometimes they talked about other things on the side and sent each other gifts, but it is mainly about her ordering books. It was sweet and fun to read, but I can't give it more than 3 stars. Then I read a book of my physical TBR, and it is War Doctor by David Knott. Oh my god, this book. I am not eloquent enough, nor do I have the proper words to describe how I feel about this book and how much it affected me. It is a memoir of David Knott. He is a great man and a great doctor. He is considered to be the top trauma surgeon in the world. 25 years ago, he started volunteering to go to war-torn countries on humanitarian missions to try to help war victims as much as possible with his skills as a doctor. He went to many countries since then, but it all started with Sarajevo in 1993. After that, he traveled to other cities and countries. To mention a few, we have Afghanistan, Sudan, Congo, Iraq, Libya, Gaza, and way more than that. But the most city that impacted him and affected him as a doctor and made him come back again and again is Aleppo in Syria. This book is nothing like the books I just talked about. You can just sit down and breeze through it in one sitting. It was horrifying, the things that David Knott witnessed in these countries. And I can't even imagine how much worse it is for the people of these countries who were the most affected and impacted by the horrendous face of war. This book took me exactly 2 weeks to finish reading. It was not an easy read. I even took a break in the middle of reading it to read 84 Charing Crossroad because it was just too much. Even though David Knott tried to be nice and not to describe everything he saw in details in some instances, but this didn't stop this book from being so shocking. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. I love it, even though I feel wrong to say the word love about a book that talked about the miseries of others. I saw many people complain about 2 things about this book. The first one is the writing style. They didn't like the writing style and thought it was weak. Like, people, this is not a literary fiction book. Just read it for what it is. Don't expect Charles Dickens or Jane Austen to have written this book. Second of all, people claim that this book is self-centered, but it is a memoir, for God's sake. That's the whole point, for the author to tell their own story. As for me, I love this book, found it to be perfect couldn't be any better, and I highly recommend it to everyone. But be aware, if you are in not a very good headspace, don't read this book because it will make it worse, way worse. I think some people won't even stomach the things that are in this book, because I told my mother and sister some parts of this book and they found it shocking and told me, why do I read these types of books? But I can't stop, and I won't stop reading these types of books. I need to know what people go through around the world. And last but not least, Half Broke Horses by Jeannette Walls. This is a biography of Jeannette Walls' grandmother, told and written by Jeannette herself, relying on letters, diary entries, and stories told by her family members, especially her mother and grandmother, about her grandmother's life. It is like 90% true and based on her grandmother's life, but she tried to fill in some gaps in the story. That's why it is called a true life novel instead of a biography, but I consider it a non-fiction biography book. Lily Smith, Jeannette's grandmother, really had a rough life. She started at a young age learning everything and doing everything from house chores to breaking horses to working on farming with her family and other things. Then at a young age, she left her family home to pursue a career in teaching. After that, she did everything you can name, from teaching people to flying planes to riding horses and car racing. And this book talks about her life from the beginning till her granddaughter Jeannette was born. Really enjoyed this book. Lily Smith was an amazing woman. I really loved this first half, especially. The second half, after she got married, not so much. I give this book 3 out of 5 stars. It was a really good book, but not as good as The Glass Castle. It is good enough for me to pass the time and enjoy a story of a great woman. As for the other 2 books that were on my TBR, Sapiens, I didn't even touch this book, didn't read a single line in it. I didn't have the time. As for the other book, Islam بين الشرق والغرب, or Islam Between East and West, this one I'm like halfway through it, but I was planning to finish reading it before the end of November, but it turned out to be one of these books that need more time and focus from the reader to understand completely. That's why I'm taking my sweet time reading it. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to see my future videos, and I will see you next time. Bye!